take ISIS then? I just read you an article by a man who fought there who said we could have beaten them already. Why won't we beat them is the question he's raising. We don't need to let them take over half of Syria and a portion of Afghanistan in order to fight them. There's a fight going on right now. There are people fighting for their lives right now. We're not helping them.
Right, and it's kind of...
Iraq itself is... the Iraqi government is fighting them right now, and we're not helping them.
Right, and it's kind of skirmishes here and skirmishes there. But if you were able to just completely go in and take over an entire country like we have...
Well, it doesn't work that way. A military doesn't go in and take over an entire country. They win it town by town. They don't win it country by country. Even if you look at World War II as an example, it was fought in skirmishes, building to building, rubble to rubble, town by town, village by village, and then eventually they reached Munich. And then the battle raged on. So it was not done, even in World War II was not done in the way you're suggesting.
Sure it was when we took over.
So, in other words, I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to rationally understand why Obama does not engage ISIS more directly. And you don't want to accept that he's on their side. You dismiss that as a conspiracy theory. And you don't want to accept that he's a pacifist because for whatever the reason is, you can't accept that. And so you're trying to think that there's an actual grand strategy being that was thought out by the sorority that surrounds him that would explain what they're doing. I disagree with you. And the only grand strategy I can think of is that they're on the side of the Shias in Iran who actually wants ISIS to grow in power, even though they're allegedly fighting them.
We can agree to...
They're all part and parcel. They're part and parcel. Let's not fall for the Muslim shell game of it's Shia versus Sunni and one of them is our friend. Neither side is our friend. They both hate us. The Sunni and the Shia would like to see us killed. Don't you understand that?
I do.
They're not your friend. You can't do business with any of them.
That's right. I believe that.
That's my opinion. It's a shell game, and we're stupid enough to think that one side is on our side or less vicious than the other. So that's why I have to go back to fiction to make my point. In Countdown to Mecca, I left you where the general is plotting bombing Mecca. And, of course, Jack hears about it through something happens. I told you what it was. So he's in Israel now. And he's in a trailer, air-conditioned trailer, talking to his Israeli counterparts. And it's in this trailer, which is stationed atop Mount Keren. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about, listen carefully. Just 5 miles over the border from Egypt into Israel. He instantly felt the oven-like desert heat on his face as he gazed out over the Israeli terrain spread out far below him in all directions, reminding him how briefly of the view from Masada. For the past year now, he had been the commander of a highly classified American-run radar installation with 120 American technicians and combat personnel under his command. The only foreign troops stationed on Israeli soil, their mission was to maintain a close radar watch on Tehran, 1,000 miles away to the northeast. The classified X-band radar they used to perform this mission was so powerful that it could detect a soccer ball kicked into the air from nearly 3,000 miles away. In the event the Iranian government ever made the fateful decision to launch one of their Shabab-3 missiles at Tel Aviv, this radar installation would detect it within seconds of launch, allowing for effective countermeasures to be taken before the missile ever reached Israeli airspace. The Israelis' own radar would not pick it up for a full 7 minutes, far too late for an intercept. So this significant time difference in detection made the American early warning system an invaluable asset to the security of Tel Aviv, as well as a powerful bargaining tool for the United States to use in curbing the aggressive natures of many hardline first strike advocates within the Israeli government. Ashlock got into his car and drove across the small base to the gate where he was passed through by a pair of American soldiers armed with M4 carbines. Within the hour, he pulled up to a large government garage used to house earth-moving equipment 11 miles south of the Negev Nuclear Research Center. He parked near 3 other civilian vehicles, all of them bearing either diplomatic or governmental license plates, and went inside. I'm reading from Countdown to Mecca, my forthcoming novel, for a reason. If you think it was just tossed off overnight, well, you're mistaken. There's a lot in here you may want to know that I can't tell you in nonfiction. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. We're talking about why is Obama not fighting ISIS? Why is he just wrist-slapping them instead of crushing them? Some say it's because he's sympathetic. Others say it's because he's pacifist. There are many, many answers to the question, but there's no one arguing that he's not taking them on. He is not taking them on. He's not doing his job as commander-in-chief. He wants ISIS to grow. There's no other explanation for it. WABC, Sean, welcome to the program. What's your point, please?
My point is we've bled enough. I understand that a lot of blood was wasted. I'm not going to say Obama is sympathetic.
Okay, you're right. Nobody wants another war. We're tired of war. All of us are. And we cannot put Marines on the ground. Then why are we not sending them the mortar tubes that they need?
You know why?
I'm asking, here's the question. Why are we not sending them the weapons they need to defend themselves against these scum? These low-life throwback scum! Why? Why are we not helping the people who are willing to die for the cause?
You got me. I do not know. I
got you? I don't want to get you. I want people to wake up to the massacre that's occurring against Christians because of your president. You fall for the public relations because you're easily gulled. It's the Kardashian awakening in America. If someone has a large butt, you think they're beautiful. Let me tell you something. They could have been wiped out in the first week. F-16s, F-15s, F-22s, A-10s, B-1s, helicopters, B-52s, B-2s. Not one boot on the ground.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage.
Explain something to you. You know, there have been some books in history that have changed the course of human events. I can name a few that I've read in my life. One was about the meatpacking industry at the turn of the 1900s. It exposed the filthy food industry. It brought us the food safety laws. I forget the name of the book. I think Upton Sinclair wrote it. Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, changed the mind of the whole world. Just the title alone, Silent Spring. What was she saying? Pesticides were killing the birds, and we wake up one day to a silent spring. She started the entire environmental movement. And for those of you who don't understand the importance of it, I pity you. Don't assume that you hear the environmental, they're all wackos. I've spent a good portion of my life rescuing rainforests, etc., so I don't want to go into that. But that book woke people up. There are books that wake people up. I wrote Countdown to Mecca to wake you up to what's at stake in the world right now. Islam threatens to take over the entire world unless radical Islam is stopped. I as sure as I'm sitting here, they will take over the entire world because we have people on our side who are passive cowards or overt operatives of Islam in this government. And I'm not alone in this opinion. Now, I've said this many times. I've alluded to it many times on the radio and in some of my books. But there are things that I want to say that I couldn't say that I do say in this book called Countdown to Mecca because it's fiction. But my fiction is based on good research. I'm originally a scientist, and I research things very well. And so I take you to Israel in the middle of the book, and I'm going to give you the germ of the plot. It's a group of generals, CIA agents, and Israeli Mossad who are plotting and arguing over whether to blow up Mecca. And I want to read you the germ of the book because you have to understand what's at stake here. So now they go down in a hangar, and they get in there, and they're in a down below. Inside was 6 pensive-looking men, 4 Israelis and 2 Americans. Both of the Americans were CIA agents in their 40s. 2 of the Israelis were of the same age, both agents with the Israeli Mossad. But the other 2 Israelis were 10 years younger than the rest, both of them nuclear physicists working for the Israeli government. They were also brothers, though this wasn't immediately obvious to look at them, with one of them being Orthodox while the other was clearly a Hasidic Jew with the curled side locks of hair hanging down in front of his ears. Both of them worked at the Negev nuclear plant, where the entire world understood that Israel had probably manufactured close to 200 nuclear weapons since the plant had first gone online in the late 1950s. In the basement of the plant, several levels down, the Israelis also ran chemical and bacteriological weapons programs. These were launched in the middle 1960s when there was concern about the widespread destruction the high-yield bombs would cause, as well as decades of lingering radiation. Nerve agents, blood agents, and choking agents were produced here, along with disease agents ranging from anthrax to Ebola. There was a secondary reason for producing these other weapons. In the event of an attack from any of its neighbors, the bomb runs would release these toxins and cause untold devastation in those border nations. Ashlock, now he's the general now behind the plot. Ashlock said, I take it we're all here then, because we've decided to go through with this. One of the CIA men, a gruff-looking fellow wearing a Yankees cap with gnarled hands and a sunburned face, shook his head, jerking his thumb at the Hasid. Curly here's got cold feet. Watch your mouth, said the Hasid's older brother. He has valid points. The older brother was tall and thin, scholarly-looking, with a prominent nose and thick black hair. His name was Colton. The CIA man chuckled. His name was Chevrier, a former Navy SEAL from the First Gulf War. He glanced at his partner, a thinner man with a hatchet face and dark sandy blonde hair. Hear that, Parks? He's got valid points. Parks smirked and shook his head, trying not to laugh. If Chevrier was the muscle in their little CIA team, Parks was definitely the brains. The Jew Colton took a step around the table, but one of the Mossad men, another military-looking man named Laidlaw, with a shaved head and goatee, put a hand on his chest to stop him. You better grow a thicker skin, boy, or you're likely to get your neck broken. Ashlock stared at Chevrier long enough to make sure the CIA man felt the weight of his gaze, then turned to the younger brother, who stood looking defiant on the far side of the table. What's on your mind, Isaiah? Isaiah was the smartest man in the room. At 29 years of age, he wore wire-rimmed glasses and looked like the classic Jewish nerd. The target is wrong, he said simply. Wrong how, General? Ashlock asked, wondering if he had judged the younger man correctly. The Jew said, destroying Mecca will leave no center to the Muslim faith. Isaiah said, the war will never end because they'll have no reason to ever quit. We'll have to kill every last one of them. Ha! Chevrier said with a little sneer. What's wrong with that? Isn't that the idea? No, it isn't, Isaiah said, matter-of-factly, pushing his glasses up onto his nose. The idea is to eliminate the extremist threat to the civilized world, but by destroying Mecca, you instantly turn every single one of the peaceful into another warrior extremist. You fill them with hatred and you force them to fight. It's obvious if you take a moment to think about it. It's a total war, a war of complete annihilation, Chevrier said, which is exactly what we want. Now remember, these are the conspirators planning to bomb Mecca in my forthcoming novel, Countdown to Mecca. And then there's a man who says, wait a minute, are you crazy? So Isaiah looks around the room and he says, I can't agree to that. It's not a sound strategy. Look at it another way. If you want to control a man, do you murder his entire family? No, you murder one child and leave the rest alive, making sure he knows the lives of others depend on his cooperation. After that, he has no choice but to do as he's told. You can only destroy Mecca one time, gentlemen. After that, there's nothing left to threaten them with. You'll have to kill them all. And I don't think we can count on the Western powers to do that. There'll be too much guilt. They'll fight the war half-heartedly, just as they're doing now, and it will drag on forever, just as it has for 2,000 years. Chevrier grumbled, mumbling something unintelligible under his breath. Colonel Ashlock stood watching the others, his arms crossed, as he waited to see who would speak next. He had already decided what had to happen, but he was counting on one of the Israelis to do the actual dirty work for him. Laidlaw lit a cigarette, tossing the pack onto the table with a sigh. Listen, I understand your point, Isaiah, but there are no half measures with a nuclear weapon. You of all people know this. Otherwise, why bother to use it? We have to hit their biggest target and kill as many as we can, because after the war begins, the West will have to keep it conventional, and that means... Is that what you think, Isaiah interrupted? You honestly believe the already dangerously unstable Muslim government of Pakistan will sit on their own nuclear arsenal if Mecca is hit with a weapon of mass destruction? Allow me to remind you, after the remains are finally analyzed, the source of the components used to make the bomb will be traced right back here. Ashlock held up a hand to caution him. That's not necessarily so. Only the U.S. has the requisite data to trace the source back to Israel, because nobody else even knows